without a country. One of my wife's and my major concerns was our future residential status. At the completion of my studies, I would no longer be entitled to a Turkish student visa. One option was that I could get a work visa if the Turkish law allowed us. However, there were still two other threats that clung to our minds. One was the threats from the agents of the Islamic government of Iran and Turkey, and the second was the threat of Turkish radical Muslims. So we were unsure of our continued residence in Turkey. We wished to go to a Western country, but it had become almost impossible to obtain a visa due to the difficulties the Iranian Islamic government had created for other countries. It was not easy for Western governments to distinguish between genuine asylum seekers and the terrorists of the Islamic Republic of Iran. By then, we had built a strong relationship with local Christians and did not feel alone in Turkey. We also had ministry opportunities in our church that helped make us more courageous to withstand difficulties and opposition and teach others to rely on the Lord. Margaret, an Australian Christian, was in Istanbul to visit an Australian family friend. Her friend's husband was a professor in one of Istanbul's universities not far from our church. The family often visited our church. One Sunday, they also took Margaret to the church. After the service, I met her and she asked me what I was doing in Istanbul. When I explained that I was doing research in order to complete my PhD, she asked if I planned to become a university professor. I would love to, I told her, but I am without a country. What about your country? Aren't you Iranian? She asked. I explained that I could not return to Iran because of the death sentence on me if I returned. That's so sad, she responded. At the end of our conversation, she said, "It has been a pleasure to talk to you." Then she turned and joined some other people. Later, as people were departing, Margaret came to me and asked, "If I sponsor you, would you be interested in coming to Australia?" I was stunned. Wow, what a generous offer. Why would you want to do this? I asked her. Well, you need a country, and my country also needs people like you, so it would be an honor for me to do this. I told her that we would appreciate it if the Lord led her to grant such a favor to our family. She asked me to provide all of our family's identification papers for her while she was in Istanbul, which I did and included a brief written account of my life. Then I left it in the Lord's hands. A few months later, I received a phone call from the Australian Embassy in Ankara, Turkey's capital. The voice on the other end of the line explained that the embassy had received our applications from Margaret and that there were more papers I needed to sign. The applications were sent and I completed and returned them. The embassy soon called and set a date for an interview. Our interviewer was the Australian ambassador. After welcoming us, he asked, "Do you have money?" I wasn't expecting that question. I thought, why would he ask me about money? "No, sir, we do not have money." "Why?" He responded, "If you do not have money, you will not be able to purchase your family's air tickets to Australia. The embassy does not have any responsibility for purchasing tickets for those who are granted a visa. Therefore, you need to decide if you want to be interviewed and will be able to provide the money." I told him, "Sir, we are Christians. We believe in miracles. If we get our visas, it means that Jesus wanted us to get our visas. In the same way, if he provides the money to purchase our tickets, it means that he wants us to go to your country. Otherwise, we will do whatever he wants us to do. Would it be possible for you to interview us without the money?" He studied my face for a few seconds and said, "Fair enough. I'm prepared to interview you." For the next 2.5 hours, the interviewer asked me and my family many questions. Afterwards, he led us to a waiting room and said, "I need half an hour in order to look over your responses again and give you a response." His request discouraged me because usually a decision wasn't made on the same day. I thought perhaps he might decide to reject our application. When the ambassador returned, however, he shook our hands and congratulated us for being granted Australian visas. He allowed us 6 months to provide the necessary funds. Our surprise turned into excitement, and we thanked him over and over. While shaking my hand, he lowered his voice and said, "It was an honor for me to interview you. I am proud that you are going to be a part of my country. My country needs you." His statement humbled and encouraged me.